Hi, good morning, or good afternoon, depending where you are coming in from, perhaps even good evening. I am pretty stoked to be here and with the guests that I have today and the topic that I have today. If you're tuning in, you are tuning into On the Edge with Botkeeper, the future of the profession. I am Seth Fineberg. Those who don't know me, I've been a business journalist for over 30 years. I spent a good 20 plus years covering the accounting profession with Accounting Today, Accounting Web, US, and these days with my own consulting firm, Accountants Forward, where I am looking to, work with the profession, work with a lot of the vendors in the profession to try to have better connections with accountants and to really, just kind of see this profession move forward. Our guest today is someone that I met some time ago during my tenure, particularly with Accounting Today, and he was doing something at the time which was completely radical and very, very unknown. The idea of an outsourced CFO, virtual CFO, was virtually unknown at the time that this gentleman was doing it. Michael Su, please say hello. Today we are going to get into, and I have him as my guest today because I know that he has been through it in building out his practice, which he's going to get into, and also with the topic of today, which is, just really about the realities of building a proper CAS practice and what can specifically go wrong. No one really tends to get into that aspect, and as I've been sharing on social media that this is going to get real. So if you're not here to hear the reality, if you're just here to just kind of feel like we're cheerleading CAS, that's not quite what we're going to do. We're going to give it to you straight, and I know that we only kind of have a half hour here, so we're going to hopefully give you some inspiration on your path towards building a CAS practice. Michael, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Seth. I'm so stoked. I always love talking about CAS and everything around it.
Michael is one of the more passionate, accounting professionals that I have met in my career, and he has built out a business, not a practice, but a business around, outsourced CFO services, and he understands what can go incredibly well and also incredibly wrong. So, Michael, tell us a little bit about, Deepsky, Measure and Hack, and like where you're coming from, just to kind of tee things up on your perspective.
Yeah. So started Deepsky in 2009. That's really at the time, really just an outsourced bookkeeping and accounting company. And because I didn't have the skills to be a CFO or a controller. Over time,
Right.
as a
well, you were CPA, you had your CPA at the time.
Yeah, I was a CPA, but here's the thing, and we might get into that. If you think just because you're a CPA, it makes you automatically a CFO, you're more wrong. Then it gets you real close. It gets you real close, and we can talk about that. But it doesn't automatically make you a CFO. In fact, if you kind of get stuck and hold on to some of the mindset of a CPA, then you do really bad as a CFO. But over time, I was able to find my own mentor, build my practice, build my business, then realize that what the entrepreneurs, what the business owners, what my clients really needed wasn't just outsourced accounting and bookkeeping. There's plenty of that, but there's also plenty of people that were able to do it. What they really needed was insight and the ability to navigate their business, to have a dialogue with somebody. And so slowly over time, over 15 years, I guess, we transformed to an outsourced CFO. And then of course that evolved into, workshop, online education of Measure and Hack method, and then also now a CFO tech. So I have a few businesses, but all of them are around that CFO-ship, using data to understand business, and then building systems so that we can achieve the goals that we set out to achieve.
So client advisory services, or CAS as we're calling them today, really, I think accountants across the board are really just kind of getting their heads around what that is and can mean. And it really means, to me, it's saying, okay, we're really starting to think about our accounting firm as a business. You are, make no mistake, you are running a business and you're helping others to do that. What aspects of, being, what was kind of the light, sort of went off for you much, much further in the past than it did for some others here? What was the thing that kind of drew you to that light that said, you know what, we could be doing more than, accounting or accounting services?
Yeah. I think I'm different than most accountants and most people that are going to be listening to this podcast or
Yeah.
workshop, because I hated accounting. I absolutely hated it. The only reason why
Mhm.
I did accounting was because I was tricked by my mother, who told me accounting was the language of business. And then I realized it was about dotting the I's, crossing the T, more than about the language of business. But that always sat in the back of my head. And when I
Mhm.
started to run a business, or when I started to do outsource accounting as a means to an end to be able to run my own business. So I went around in when I was an AR clerk, I went around my office, and I tried to figure out where everything came from and where everything was going. And I asked around because I was trying to find the secret. I was trying to find a business I wanted to build. I think that's when I realized most of these entrepreneurs really struggle. They really struggle with understanding the numbers of their business. They really having trouble understanding the game. The game that they're playing, there's no scorecard.
Right.
That's what clicked. And I hated compliance. I filed one tax return in my life. That was in college, and I got audited, and that was the only tax return I have ever filed. So I mean, ever since then, I think I hired my cousin when I was in like second year in college, and then I never did my own taxes ever again. So
Right.
compliance was never my thing. But what fascinated me was what the
Yeah.
numbers were telling me and what the numbers were
Mhm.
telling the CEOs. But more importantly, not just the story that it tells.
Mhm.
So what? So what? Like, what are we
Yeah.
gonna do about it? That was always what fascinated me, and it just turned out to be extremely profitable because it was extremely valuable.
Yeah. Well, this is why I think a lot of firms are of all sizes, really. It used to be, I think, more, you talk to a mid or a larger size firm, they most likely had or were building out client advisory service type, virtual CFO type practices. But now it seems to kind of cross the gamut because they realize, just as you did, the numbers are going to tell you something. And that something often is, this is a conversation here ready to happen with my clients. And so that big A in the middle of CAS means advisory. It means here's an opportunity to have a conversation with your client. So, but it's not as easy as it sounds. Obviously, a lot of high-end potential here for those who have these kinds of services, way more than compliance work. Again, not poo-pooing it at all. That's the base that you're starting with. You still have those relationships. However, Michael, a while ago you realized, okay, I'm going to go down this path. I can do more. What tends to happen in building out these practices is there's a lot of things that firms and firm leaders aren't told about what can potentially go wrong. So I want to spend our time that we have here kind of going into that. So hopefully, as you out there listening to this are building out your practices, that you won't run into this, or maybe you're even starting to see where like you're struggling a little. So if you were to come up with a short list of what can commonly trip up firm leaders looking to expand into CAS, what would it be? Because I know that you're speaking from experience here.
I think the hardest, and there's 1,000 things that could go wrong, right?
Sure. But
And
if we could shortlist it.
right. And if I were to really think about it, what we really struggled with, and it took even for me, it took a while for me to kind of shift that thinking, is that as accountants, we can't get out of I am outsourcing for capacity.
Right.
You know, and we always want to think, oh my God, if I'm charging them $1,000 or even $500 for bookkeeping? How is it ever possible? Like, I have to do 5 times the work to charge them for $5,000, right? And just unfathomable to us. Like, how do I even do 5? There's not even 5 times worth of work to do. And it's never about outsourcing of capacity. I said this at last year's AI on Chain. It's always about, at this level, at outsource CFO level, it's always about outsourcing the capability. And if you don't get that right, if you keep thinking in the traditional work of, hey, I'm outsourcing for capacity, and then you have and you're circling around that conversation even with your clients, saying things like, oh yes, in the beginning, how many transactions are there? And in the beginning, it's going to take us a little while to figure it out, but after a while, it's going to get cheaper. As soon as you get into that conversation, you're in the wrong conversation.
Yeah.
And you get stuck. And the more client you bring on, the more stuck you get. And CFO-ship is something that requires your mind, your brain capacity. It's a capability. It's a thinking game.
Right.
You know, what you're selling, I always say this, what you're selling are the thing between your ear. What you're selling is not your time.
Yeah.
You know, it's not even your skill set, right?
So and breaking away from that, like going, okay, this isn't a time thing, even though some people, when it gets to pricing, and I want to get to the pricing bit, because that's another big stumbling block, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah. But sorry, you were saying.
No, that's I think that's the biggest thing, right? It's and mindset is so like foo-foo, but at the end of the day, it kind of is important, right? And if you're stuck there, it will be very hard. It's an uphill battle. It's and I've been there, and I think everybody heard the story. If you knew me from back in 11 or 12 or something like that, the whole fired half of my client list. It was because all those clients were clients of that conversation, you know, and I had to do a hard reset, and it's not fun. I think back then I made the mistake of thinking, oh, such a cool thing. Like, I've hired half of my client list. It's never cool to fire clients.
No, you know, and it doesn't tell the whole story, does it? You know, hey, you know, like I hear all the time, hey, you're struggling, you know, with your business. Raise your prices. You're worth it. Okay, great. You know, you can't just wave the magic wand and just go, all right, well, now I'm charging this.
Yeah.
We're doing what? The same thing.
Yeah.
You know, doesn't really work with CAS.
It's an unpopular opinion, but I'm gonna say this out loud. You're not worth it.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen the work of our peers for the last 15 years, and all these outsourced controller. They're no more than a glorified bookkeeper, and they suck at it.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't say that, and I don't say that to be mean. I say that because we're so close. Everything that we were taught in CPA school, accounting school, even at firms, big fours, or mid-size, everything we were taught brings us 95% there, and it's fantastic. But in order for you to make that shift into controllership or to CFO-ship, you have to start thinking, and I say this, that the secret sauce isn't another accounting class, isn't more complex rules or more complex or learn more, you know, GAAP or FASB. It's the shift from, here's everything I know. I have the hammer, I have the, you know, the measuring tape, I have the laser, and then shifting the focus to thinking from a CEO perspective and going, what do they care about?
Right.
What do they need? And if you don't make that shift, and if you just keep thinking, I need yet another accounting class, another accounting class, another accounting class, and look at all the knowledge I get, look at all the degrees and diplomas I get, and then now all of a sudden I'm going to charge more because I'm worth it, I can say you're not. And that's another pitfall. You got to shift. You have to step into the shoes of them. And I'll tell you, what is it that they're looking for? It's very simple. They care about cash and profitability. That's it. That's it. Two answers, which most people in the accounting industry, if you're any good at all, that you have completed your accounting school properly, I would say you were able to answer their question. The problem is we keep thinking, oh, that's too easy. Nobody will pay for that. But that's exactly what they're paying for.
And you're doing the work and you're taking a lot of it off their plate, of course. And that's the very nature of what you're doing with your clients. However, what else that stands out in your mind can go wrong when you're going, okay, I'm gonna build this out. This is gonna be a separate business, or this is, hey, heck, this is gonna be my entire business. I've done bookkeeping, I've done, some tax and a bit of audit work. It's not entirely for me. This can't be all there is. So, client advisory services definitely allows you to expand into a lot of different, areas of work to really get into the meat of a business, of your client's business, and help them to that next level. But you're building a business yourself. And one of the more common mistakes that I've seen is that firms haven't really bothered to come up with a business plan of their own. Did you find that you ran into that as well? Like, oh man, I actually have to think of this as a business.
If I have to
do it.
Yeah, if I have to say what I see the most, and we've been doing CFO Club and CFO School for the last year and a half now, and we have a ton of students that have come through. And if you're listening to this and you are that service provider, that CFO and the firm owner, it doesn't matter if you're a one-person shop or if you have like a couple of staff, but if you're still doing delivery work and you're the owner, the biggest problem that I see is that they don't spend enough time being the CEO of their company, because they spend all of their time delivering the work, because that's what we were taught, right? Not to mention, if you're moving from compliance to CFO-ship, I have one student, really good student of mine, and he's been with me for seven months now. His biggest struggle for the first CFO Club, yeah. For the first, I think 4 or 5 months, he was consistently great relationship, great. I think he's got 20 employees or so. Great, he's got a partner, but he's always researching, right? Doing tax setup. He's a phenomenal tax, structure. I don't even know what he does because I don't do taxes. He's great at that, and because that pays him good money, it's hard for him to shift. So I keep telling him, and I'm going to call him Steve because I'm not going to disclose his name. I keep telling him, Steve, you either got to, if you're good at this, if you're good at tax structuring, keep doing that. But if you want to do the outsourced CFO thing, have someone else. If it's a junior, great. I can train that person. If it's a partner, great. Or if you're saying, hey, I'm going to pass this tax person thing off to somebody, and then now you're going to be a CEO, there's different hats. The CEO of the firm, the service deliverer, rather it's compliance work that you're already doing and you're already great at, or the CFO thing. You got to pick, because can you do it all? Yes, just not at the same time, because we only have 40, 50 working hours a week.
Hopefully.
Right? and you gotta give up the good for the great. And I think that is so hard for so many of my students, and I talk to them too. I have more than a dozen people who paid for our $5,000 classes and never showed up, or even showed up for one day. And to me, that's just crazy. And when I call them up, they say, hey, we're busy with our busy season, and we're busy, and I don't want that.
And that's,
do it or don't do it.
It's not getting out of your own way, which, again, it sounds like what you're talking about, which is you're used to a certain role in your firm, and now all of a sudden you have to think of yourself in this different role. So then it comes to, I need to hire. Let's talk about that a bit, because I think that's one of the more common pitfalls and the things that you just can't wave the wand and just go, okay, we're gonna build a CAS practice out of the folks that we already have, which I've seen pretty commonly. What do you need to hire? What pieces do you need that are essential to going? If you're going to go down this road and put on the CEO cap now, who's on your team?
I wanna give you an answer, and if you don't like the answer, I can answer this question.
That's
Um,
fine.
I don't
Let's
want to
do
talk
it.
about hiring another person
Yeah.
because I know that's what AICPA will say. I know that's what the top 100 firm will say. But I
Mhm.
also know people like me or people who built the firm like me who's got 1, 5, 10, 20, even 20 employees. We can't hire people. Like we can't even hire the people to do the work that we have. Like, and you're telling me I'm gonna hire people to do this thing that I'm not even sure it's gonna work. So instead, this is what I will
So what
say.
do we do?
Instead, this is what I will say. If you are the firm owner and you're still doing the service delivery and you're saying, hey, I'm the one who's gonna be CFO number one, right? I'm gonna take this on, and I think that's the easiest. Then I will say this. I will say, track your time, okay? And just hear me out. Just track your time for 3 days or 1 week. You're the firm owner. Like you're not trying to do billing or anything like that, but just track your time and find out what exactly are you spending your time on.
Yeah. What are you doing?
Okay. My bet is you're spending your time on a lot of BS that a cheaper staff or somebody on your team can already do, or you shouldn't even be doing, maybe on
Should do
social
it.
media or whatever it is, right? And then free that up. Free that up, either offloading it. I love this methodology that my mentor taught me. He was like, Michael, what do you make a year? And I think when he told me that, I was making 200 a year, right? And he was like, take 200 and divide it by 2,000, right? And he was like, and he goes, that's your hourly rate, $100, which is not a lot,
Yeah.
right? And then he goes, track your time, and anything that costs less than $100, you should have your staff do it.
Yeah. This is the time journal we had discussed at one time.
Right,
Yes.
right, right, right. That was the time journal. And the start of that was the start of everything. And I was as I was and the funny thing is when you start tracking your time, you see all the because you're the firm owner. Like this is not like when we're in firms, we're tracking time, we're trying to tell our partner what we're doing. You know, when you're tracking time
Yeah.
for yourself, you
It's for
realize
you.
you're like, hey, come on, from 3 to 4, you know what I was doing? I was Instagramming, right? Like, I was
Okay,
market.
I mean that's yeah. You're just if you're getting real about your time and you're really literally journaling every half hour, every hour, what you
Yeah,
do. Like, oh yeah, I went to lunch. I went, went for a
yeah.
walk.
And so I say this, right? So find those time, and you're gonna find some time, maybe 4 hours, maybe 5 hours a week, probably more. And I
Mhm.
say that's plenty enough, right? Take those time. There's so many schools, boot camp, stuff out there, or watch our Instagram video and YouTube video. We have a ton of free content,
CFO
and then
Club.
just start working through that. And this thing that the biggest feedback I got for this year and a half of doing CFO school is that people imagine, going from compliance work to CFO is this leap and jump. Like I'm gonna study so hard, and then all of a sudden I'm gonna be CFO, and then I'm gonna charge from 1,000 to 5,000. It's not like that.
No.
And what I would suggest is take those 4 or 5 hours a week, and I guarantee you, you will find stuff that you can improve. You can start delivering insight and delivering value, especially now, because times right now are tough. We're in a silent
Yeah.
recession, man.
Yeah.
Like everyone is
Yeah.
struggling. I have
Let's get real.
yeah,
It doesn't get talked about enough. Like, it's not a
times
bad thing. It's just how to navigate it.
times are tough. I have I think 4 chat groups of CEO groups from around the world that are literally set up to say times are tough, we're struggling, how can we help each other, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
guess what? All of those 4 chat groups, people are saying sales are down, expenses are up because of inflation. I'm getting crushed by the debt that I have taken on through COVID or the last couple of years. And I have no idea where I stand financially, and I have no idea where I'm going.
That's the
Every
reality.
single accountant and CPA on this call listening to this, can you help with those things? Absolutely. Do you need another degree? Absolutely not. Guess what? That's CAS. That's CAS 1.0. That's getting you
Yep.
from $1,000 to 1,500, 1,000 to 2,000. And guess what? It takes 4 or 5 hours a week. That's it. And then by
Yeah.
week 2 or week 3, or at the
Like
slowest, month 1,
real
you get money
work
back. You
hours
get money
putting
back.
that in.
Yeah.
Would you say another common misstep, pitfall, if you will, is that you can do it alone? You do this yourself, because it sounds like you're building this network, you're building connections. You yourself you brought up your mentor several times. Let's talk about that a little bit. I know we don't have a ton of time left, but I think this is an important thing to get into.
Yeah.
Of anyone building out a CAS practice, feeling like, oh yeah, there's so many firms around me that do it. The numbers are there. I can just follow this model.
You absolutely can do it alone, but why would you want to do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. I spent 15 years building Deepsky. I haven't done the math yet, but if I just roughly, I mean, we talk about traveling. I started flying to China next week, and then Singapore, and then Napa, and then I went to Korea. I'm going to Japan. I've gone to Harvard, MIT, and I've gone to Stanford. All these classes. I went to Harvard for 4 days. It cost me $10,000. And it's an entrepreneurship program. It's learning things, it's connecting with people. And if you look at the last 15 years, I would say I probably spent somewhere in 6 figures, right? If not mid 6 figures, at least low 6 figures.
Learning?
On just flights and school.
Well, yeah, we're getting to,
right? And conferences and hotels, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why not take all of these? And guess what? Out of every 10 things I learned, I probably forgotten 9, implemented 1. And out of 10 things I implemented, probably 1 or 2 worked. Why go through all that? Why not just pick and choose from other people? One thing that I think the accounting industry don't do enough of is what other industry does. Other industries are always about collaborating, are always about, hey, what are you guys doing that's working? Like we're really struggling. Like I own a couple bars.
They're running things like a business, so you're looking at other businesses.
Yeah, well, I mean, I own a couple bars right now in Asia, and then they talk. We talk with our neighbors. We're like, how are you keeping your food costs down? Like, where are our guests? Like, how can we market together? We create events where people will go bar hopping routes. Like, if you can do that with a bar, like. Bar owners are not the most intelligent business people in the world, but still, if bar owners can figure this out, why don't we do it in the accounting world? Yeah. We're just so scared all the time.
People coming in, serve them to the highest quality, keep them coming back. Excellent.
And help each other out. Just help each other out. There's so many business out there to do that you never have to be afraid of, And so I think a mistake. You're right. A mistake would be to go at it alone.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
So, Michael, we got a couple minutes left here. Obviously, we could probably talk about this for easily another hour. And we want to just kind of tee up also, those who haven't registered yet for AI Unchained this year. Definitely do it. Be there. Hear more from Michael. Meet him in person. I'll be there as well. Talking about some of the changes in the profession. Final thoughts here. What would you say matters most in CAS development? What's that kind of North Star that you need to always keep in mind? This is you're now going from, firm leader to, I'm the CEO now. I'm running this CAS practice. What is the North Star? What matters most?
The value that you bring to your clients. And I'm going to clarify that, because the word value had been, I feel like, bastardized in the industry for the last decade or so. But here's the thing. I hear in our industry so much about saving on cost, probably because we're accountants, right? What technology is going to save me time? Where do we hire the cheapest employees from overseas, and so on and so forth?
Right.
And because we are accountants, we should understand this. There's only so much we can only cut to 0. But the value that we create, it's unlimited. And I'll give you a specific example, because I know accountants hate fluff and want specific examples, right? Mm-hmm. Two stories if we have time. One story very quick. A client was going to charge their clients, I think, $70,000 based on a cost plus. We look at it, we look at analysis, we look at market research. We ended up helping him quote that client $450,000.
Nice.
And they got it. They want it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So 450,000 versus 70,000, what is that? $380,000 in additional revenue, right? 350, yeah, 350,000. We charge that client, I think, 90,000 a year. He will always go with this. That's case number one. Case number two, one of our another client, he's building businesses, he's pulling all these people, he's paying all these commission people, and then he's doing all these sponsorships. And then we look at the numbers and we're like, hey, Mr. CEO, the sponsorships are not paying for itself. Matter of fact, these other guys are doing these things. He's going and he's getting paid to speak. Perhaps you should try that because we think it's the same business model. Tried it out again. Gained new revenue, save I think $40,000 or $50,000 on sponsorship costs annually. We charge this guy I think 100, maybe 110,000 a year. Same thing, pay for ourselves. And on that call, the CEO specifically said, "You have just paid for your entire year's services." Those are the things that you want to go for. And if you go for those things, sky's the limit. You will make so
100%.
much money, not know what to do with.
Heck of a problem to have. Michael, always a pleasure, my friend. I cannot wait to see you IRL at AI Unchained. This has been Michael Sue. I'm Seth Fineberg for Botkeepers on the Edge with Botkeeper, the future of the profession. Thank you all, and I hope you really, get a bit out of this session. And those of you who have listened in live with us, and will after after you play this back. Thank you again.
We need more people like you guys.